call to order the Dayton Public School Board. Roll call.
President Bailey,
Here.
Dr. Goodwin,
Here.
Mr. Lacy,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Present.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Present.
Mr. Walker,
I am back in my seat.
Ms. Garrison,
Present.
7 present.
Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any more discussion or questions?
I do have.
Joe,
Mr. Lacy?
I'm gonna pass stuff out.
I love when Mr. Lacy has his receipts.
Somebody will take on. I've got a couple more. Somebody else. Before deciding on going to a levy, I thought it was prudent to look at our chances of success electorally. So I polled what I feel to be maybe the most like election, and that would be the 2022 primary. And I was able to poll the Ds and Rs that voted in that primary in our district. And then I compared that with the 2022 general election. And they don't just, the quickest way to get a somewhat similar Ds and Rs is just to take a generic D candidate and a generic R candidate. I just chose the one of the constitutional offices, the Attorney General's race. And yeah, so that assimilates the Democrats and Republicans that voted in that election. We all, I think, know that the people that are Democrats are more likely to have children in Dayton public schools or in public school in general. They are more likely to vote with us than the other side. If you look at the total for the primary, you've got nearly 10,000 Democrats and around 5,000 Republicans. That's a total of about 15,000. That's about the same number that voted in the 2025 election that we just went through. And then you compare it to the general election, and the Ds are 25, 26,000, Republicans are 13, 14,000. Off-year primaries have a fairly low turnout within this district. And when you're going with first of all, yeah, the kind of numbers we have, any suburban district, they would kill to have the numbers we have. But in a primary in an off year, we do have a low turnout. And when you have a low turnout, I really believe that you're swimming upstream. The result could be easily affected by a large group of people that are opposed, just coming over. when there's only 15,000 voting, but there are a lot more not voting, a lot of those people could come over and vote. And I've seen this happen. I mean, it's a very democratic city, but yet since I've lived here, we've had 3 mayor's races where Republicans have won. And what happened in each of those cases, it was just some excitement that brought more ours out. And then, yeah, the 2000 levy, which we lost, that was also a very low turnout. And it really didn't take a lot of the other side coming out to overcome the yes vote. Our successes were the general election of 2002 when we passed the bond levy, and the general election of 2008. And I remember clearly the 2008 levy, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars that we got. And, but I do remember, I looked at the polling and we were ahead before the campaign even started. They did polls before there was any campaign. We were ahead from the very beginning. And I don't think the campaign really made much difference at all. It probably boosted our lead, but I really believe that the general election is the more prudent way to go, because we have a better chance of success in the general election. And to say that, yeah, we can try it now and possibly lose. I mean, I'm not saying we would lose, but I mean, if there is a turnout that doesn't favor us and we lose, that's fine, we can try it again. And then you're asking people to contribute again, you're asking the community for support again, you're going through a campaign again, and I've been through enough of them that, yeah, going into one after the other, it could be a nightmare, and it doesn't make us look good. So these are just some facts to look at and to consider as we vote. I will be voting no, although I am convinced of the need and I would support a levy. And I would just say that I just want to clarify that my no vote, if it is a no vote, I'm sure Mr. Smith always has a good way of an eloquent way of making me change my mind. But if he does not, my no vote is really, it's really because I believe we can do better for our students. We can really do better by ensuring that we do it right one time. And that's what I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
So thank you, Mr. Lacy, for the information. And mine is more of a discussion than anything, because in 2022, I think we have to also put in look at the totality of the circumstances around us. In 2026, people are more political online than I've ever seen. We're going into the primaries this year where, like, yes, our levy, I think Ms. Reiner said that we would be possibly the only ones out here with that one. Is that correct? But all the other things that are bringing individuals out, like, the state races, though, that's a big factor looking at where we are as a society and our morality as a culture and that piece of it. I don't know if this year will be different, because, politics has never looked like this from everyone who has been on this earth longer than I've been, who has told us in that one. I hear the piece of the credibility of us as an organization, but I do think that's one of the things that when I saw the city of Dayton put the hospital out, one of the biggest arguments that I heard over and over from lay people was, let the people decide if it's something that they want to support or not. I don't have children in the district. I have nephews and nieces and that, and I said this last week, that what happens whether the district is successful, which I would hope we are successful in anything we do, I would hope that it lessens some of the financial realities that we know are coming to us. I asked last week, if we did pass a levy in May, and you know the projections of cuts, how many of those would we be able to hang on to, knowing that we had money coming in January? And I'm gonna ask if you guys did figure that out, because I think that's a key factor of us being successful in May versus November. Because in May, I can plan. In November, we've already let those people go because we had a month at that point. So, Dr. Lawrence, did you guys figure that out for us at all?
We made a budget revision yesterday, and we are still $9 million over projected budget for next year, which means that we would have to make some reductions. Based on the school programming and committee meeting you had the day before, we talked about what some of those were. So we're going to drill down, and we don't know the exact number of individuals, but but in each one of those categories that we covered yesterday, there will be some reductions.
Okay, that was great to say. My question is, if a levy passed in May, of those reductions that are already projected, what percentage could we hold on to, knowing that money was coming?
100%. We can hold on to that. Every program and every person.
So if we pass the levy in May
Yes.
and the voters approve the levy,
Mhm.
you're saying that we would be able to hold on them knowing that the money was coming in January?
Yes.
And if we did it in November, what does that look like? What's that turnaround? Well, they'll be gone at that point.
But yeah, if we do in November, we're gonna make the decisions in March and April to have a reduction in force.
So yeah, Mr. Lacy, I do agree.
Or some transformation in the district somewhere else.
So I do agree with you that November is the bigger pool because we are a strong Democratic city in that piece of it.
Yeah.
But I want to save jobs more than I want to take. I would rather take the risk right now if it meant that the people who work for this district, if it passed, that they could continue to stay with us up until, this is their career. So thank you. Thank you for giving that back.
And I
Mr.
just
Smith?
think this.
Before
Dr.
you
Lawrence,
go,
that math though for me does
just
not,
let's just clarify. The primary is in May.
right.
Yeah.
So the math you're saying is, if we were to wait till November, we would have already made decisions in March about an election that comes in May. That makes no sense because we'll be making decisions based off something that, say if we went for something in May and it didn't pass, then when would we make those changes that you're talking about? If you're saying if we were to wait, we would have made those decisions March and April, like that doesn't line up. And so that's where I'm thinking of, for me, these things aren't lined up in a way that is conducive to helping the district. Like, even right now, you're saying, even if we say, okay, you put something on the May ballot, which really means it's up in April because you have early voting. It's February now. I do not look around and see, okay, well, we have a levy committee of people lined up ready. This means now we will be stressing people to move around to try to pass something. Like, even the things that, I saw the city when the city went out and they passed the levy for this hospital. It was months and months and months of seeing this group go out and get signatures and signatures and signatures to put it on the ballot and get turned down and then come back and do it again.
That's right.
And so you saw the work. We're talking about possibly putting up something that we would have to stand a levy in 2 months. And we're saying that if now we're dangling this thought of if we do not do it, then we would make these cuts that we as a district have not even identified that we're going to do. These are just drafts and ideas of what people would do. So we do not fully know where we are right now outside of a draft that people are coming up with right now because no one has made decisions on any cuts or anything like that. It puts us in a weird space because we do not have a wealth of volunteers right now lining up to say, hey, I'll go out here and knock doors and I'll make calls. And so you would be creating this space where now I do not want people feeling like I need to go and help pass this levy or I may lose my job within 2 months. Like, part of when I see levies, the big part of a levy is allowing people to learn what's going on, what are the issues, what's at stake. That is very hard to roll out from tomorrow to the first week of April. And right now we're saying we would make decisions based off if we would know we would have money coming in next year, where that money would come in next year no matter if we won in May or if we won in November. So I'm not getting where we're putting these things in. And I also just look across the state as well, like the urban districts who have passed levies in the last 3-4 years have all been in November. Columbus, Akron, Cincinnati, like Cleveland, they've been in November elections. Like, if we were set up and stand to go and move, and there was a machine to move these things, and there was already public pieces for the public to consume about these things, I would feel much more comfortable. But right now, I'm not as comfortable if we really don't even know what's at stake. Like, that is a hard thing to get people to commit to. So it's just that line of if we wait, then we would have already made these decisions is based on us assuming that we would win. And saying that we would make decisions to release people and terminate jobs before the primary anyway, if we're not up for it, it's just, it doesn't create a good environment. Like, you want to have a good environment to run a levy.
I want to say this maybe another way that's simpler. I was working with the Finance Committee. On the Finance Committee are board members Lacey, President Dr. Bailey, and Mr. Walker. And we've had multiple Finance Committee meetings outside of the regular monthly ones to prepare for the 26-27 budget. And what we came up, and all budgets are estimates, actuary estimates at this moment. And so what we came up with was, listen, we still have a $9 million gap for next year. And we are preparing to make proposals to the board as if we have that $9 million gap, and these are the things we're going to do to close it. We can't continue to do that. And so that's just where we are. And I'm sorry.
Did you have some? Yes. Oh, Ms. Garrison?
Well, he mentioned Eric Walker. Walker, you've been in some of these meetings, so before I say my piece, I would like to hear your feedback.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I just want to clarify something. If I'm looking at this 5-year forecast, right? Madam Treasurer, okay. If we don't do a levy, then we still go into 27 still with a cash balance of 78 million? Or how do we interpret this? Like, where are we?
At the bottom of that forecast.
Okay,
So the deficit comes in 2029, 3 years from the third year.
okay. And Dr. Lawrence, what you're looking to do is do the levy now to get ahead of 29 of what needs to actually happen physically in the district.
Yes, we also don't know what the biennial budget is, how that's going to play out. I'd ask the treasurer to chime in on that, but we've seen reductions every time we have a biennial budget. And I think it's also important to remember that Board Member Lacey, he's done this a couple of decades. He started off giving us data, and he said he's going to vote no. He said, but I acknowledge the need for a levy.
Yeah, and I mean, the biennial budget is a major thing. This year, public education was funded $300 million. Charter school, private schools, whatever, was funded $600 million. So when we look at where we are as really the only district right now in the state of Ohio to not have put out a levy of any sort of our size and things like that. In the area right now, I know that Jefferson Township has a levy again on the ballot. It's a district that is very small, and fortunately, if it doesn't pass this time, then I mean, at some point, the state's gonna end up stepping in. You have Inglewood, I believe, is putting a renewal levy on, or a bond levy, or something like that. So there's different things that will take place this year. For me, it is, and I'll put on a different hat right now, and looking at the politics in Ohio and what's on the ballot for the primary. Primary, you have gubernatorial things, but everyone probably is going to run and just be on a general election. Statewide offices in this area, you have some contested races, but not a lot of contested races. For me, I would be interested in seeing, hey, if we put it on for this primary, I'm good with seeing what happens, but I am more inclined with, for me, not a property tax levy, more of an income tax levy. And I think I even said to Dr. Lawrence and Madam Treasurer before, I'm interested to see what happens with both, especially where the state of Ohio is looking to go with property tax levies, and things like that. So, yeah. Ms. Garrison?
Yes, as I stated before, I am with Joe Lacy as it relates to the timing, May versus November. I don't really like putting fear in the hearts and minds of people, of situations, just to get something passed. So I'm hopeful. We are very cautious with our words in reference to the situation when it comes to staff, especially knowing there are other areas where we can make cuts that do not have to impact staff to fulfill or bridge any shortages that we may have if the levy does not pass. It would be nice to see, whether this is in November or May, what is the plan going forward if this doesn't pass in May or November. Having some different options out there to see if this doesn't do well this year at all, what is the plan to, save jobs across the district, but also where can we, continuously cut back, because we're going to have to think outside the box. This is an interesting time for the area. We don't know, what people are going to want to do as we continue to rebuild faith and confidence in the Dayton Public School District amongst our constituents. So that would be something that I would love to see, Dr. Lawrence, if you have some of those scenarios in the event this doesn't pass in May or November, although I'd love to see it pass, preferably in November. Thank you, President Bailey.
Anyone else?
Thank you, President Bailey. A couple thoughts. Thank you for these numbers, Board Member Lacy. I appreciate the look at the numbers of turnout in a comparable year. So my one counterpoint to the thought that this is more likely to be successful in November, and I say this from a neutral point of view, is that looking at the turnout numbers in May versus November, it might be cheaper to run a levy campaign in May than it would in November. So that's something to think about. The goals in terms of fundraising and working towards that, since it's about less than half the amount of voters we would be targeting. The second is that I think the board is fairly unified in understanding that the need for the levy this year is there. I think the major point of disagreement is whether it be May or November. And board members are free to speak up and let me know if I'm misunderstanding what I'm getting collectively here. I did reach out to my contacts at the county and the city. As of now, there is no likely levy to be on the ballot for the city of Dayton this year or the county. So, we always try to balance out the need for our jurisdiction, which is Dayton Public, with the needs across the city and the county. If there are too many levies on a ballot, they're less likely to pass. So in terms of looking at the landscape this year, we're fairly good. There are a fairly high number of municipal levies that are going to be on the ballot in May. Not a lot of school district levies so far, but that's all we know for May, and I don't know what it will be in November. I anticipate, and I'm not alone in anticipating, that starting next year, there will be a high number of district levies that will start being on the ballot, election after election. And so I think it's wise to be doing it this year, just to kind of get ahead of how the changes in funding, the funding elimination and the funding reductions that are happening at the State House are going to start hitting districts harder and harder and harder. And districts will have to go for levies much more often to stay afloat, because the reliance on state funding has been undercut so much. I would just prefer that we have as much stability as possible. I understand the concerns about going for the levy in May. I would prefer to cause as little disruption as possible. And so I will most likely, I'm still not sure how I'm gonna vote. I'm likely to vote for the May levy, just given I would like to make sure that we are causing as little disruption as possible for the district. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Garrison?
Just a point of clarification, the gentleman who reported, on Friday, what's his name?
Dan Shaw?
Yes, he said it's more expensive to do a levy in May than November. He didn't have the dollar amount, but he said it was more expensive to do it in May than November. So just a point of clarification. I don't know why, because he didn't have any details to give us.
Dr. Devine?
Oh,
So I think it can be, and I don't have a clear answer on this, but when I spoke to somebody, there are a pretty high number of municipalities that will be on the ballot across the county this year. I think a little bit higher than expected. So, we all have to share the cost of that. So I think that is less of, I don't have a concrete answer for this, but it was my understanding that there were more than the expected number of levies on the ballot this spring. So I think that might not be as much of a concern as initially was stated last week.
And for me, when we look at primary elections, the biggest thing is to get out the vote, since people don't really turn out to vote for primary elections. So your messaging and ad spend and things like that typically is going to be higher. Whereas your general election, everyone typically is going to vote in November. So it's trying to reach more people who will go out and support things or be against things, and that's what makes it more expensive for the primary.
And I think he was more so talking about the filing of it, not necessarily the additional funding on top of that for the campaign itself, but I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Walker. Thank you.
My question for us as a body, and I guess, well, the first one's for us as a body, who's going to, last time we talked, one of the conversations we had about a levy, Mr. Lacy, are you still the treasurer of the levy committee?
Yes.
Are there people on the levy committee?
When I took over as treasurer, I just sent out an email to all the levy committee members that were on the levy committee for 2008. I can only think of like Nan, maybe, I can't think, Nan Whaley, the former mayor. I can't think of others. But I just asked if they minded if I took over from Janice Allen. And so, I just asked if anybody was opposed. I got no answer. So I just assumed it. No, we do not currently have a levy committee.
Okay, so we don't have a committee. The question is, I guess for you, Mr. Smith, how do you get a committee?
It is a process. It's getting people who have a shared concern from different walks, getting them to come together. You have a treasurer, you have somebody who probably co-chairs the levy committee. That is my biggest concern when we look at,
My question is, who does this?
Oh, well,
Not what it is, but who's going to do that? Because if I'm for giving the district a shot, whether it's May, November, both, I'm for giving you guys a shot. My question is, if we don't give them a shot in May, who's doing all this other work that you guys are talking about between now
That is,
and then?
an ad hoc committee has to be created, because when we talk about the cost of running the levy, that isn't district dollars. The district
Mhm.
cannot pay, so
100% know that.
that has to be like
So, okay.
fundraising, all these things,
But
so
who?
Lacey could get his call as the treasurer.
So
Just
yes.
ask like who wants to take the lead and bring these people in, but yes, that is how it has to be, and it has to be outside of us.
So Lacey's the one who makes that call.
He could
I mean,
as
that,
the
but that's my
treasurer.
question. for
Not
you guys.
necessarily.
Like this
I'm
part,
saying, he
what
could.
happens?
Yeah, he
So,
could.
board
Anyone can
members-
come in.
You can go out and recruit people to be on the levy committee. You cannot wear anything DPS related or anything like that regarding the levy. It's the same as if you're sitting here on the dais, you cannot
Right,
have
on the
a,
days you can.
yeah, so you go out, recruit people outside of your role as a school board member, and then you refer them to the committee works with them, same thing as if staff wants to volunteer on the levy. They cannot do it on their hours of actually working for DPS. They can, however, take vacation or something like that to then go and work on the levy committee or something like that. But it has to be off school ground property, somewhere separate, to then end up initiate all of that.
So are members on this board committing to do the work that they want to see done? Like, that's my biggest question. I don't want to get back here and no one has taken the affirmative steps to go, hey, let's get this going. Who's gonna do that?
And that's the whole, like, even referring them to the committee, we have no committee to refer them to. We'd be going out and standing up a committee.
But are you committing to do the work is my question.
No, yeah, I've
That's-
done the work, but
that's-
in doing the work, I also know this is not the right time to start the work. That's my thing is, we're talking about starting the work.
We're doing two conversations because this, like, we need 5 people. It doesn't sound like 5 people are on board for this. So now I'm starting the next conversation of, this is starting now.
Yes, that part is,
So-
that's my thing, is if you're doing November, this is a perfect time to start the work. Because now we can talk about what is needed. We can actually have a rollout plan of, this is why we're running a levy. This is what we would do with these dollars. This is what we're facing if we do not pass this. Like, right, and it's easier to get people to work on the levy when, like Mr. Walker said, they be really looking at taking time off, using lunch breaks, starting next week. And you don't have scripts. You do not have call lists already. Like, you do not have these pieces that are already supposed to be in place when you're trying to put these things out.
Don't disagree with you. My question is, so, but you already said yes, you would commit to doing that work. Are there other people who are committing to do the work? So if we get to this point again, which this would probably be, somebody help me here, this would be what's 90 days before? August. We get to August, that we're not having this same discussion because people, we talked about it in February and we got to August, but no one did the stuff in between.
Sure, I'll commit.
You committed to, okay, is anyone else on the board committed?
I mean,
So let me add to what you're asking. So I am committed, but I'm also wanting the superintendent and team to be committed to the back end work that it takes to bring this all together as well, not waiting till August, because a lot of this work could have started in 2025 before we got here for levy in May, right or wrong.
From my training, the superintendent or the treasurer can't,
Yeah, that's
they
not,
can't do,
that's,
yeah, they can't.
Wasn't it your request to put it on the agenda?
Yes?
Oh, for us to vote on as a board?
Yes.
So that's what I'm referring
Yeah,
to.
so the actual stuff they need to do at work.
so
Because they can't do,
Not levy stuff, but
Yeah.
we could have had a levy committee. Is that, we're not allowed?
that's not, that. So
yeah, that's,
Well,
That's
the
not-
conversations you guys have been having for 8 years, what committee was that?
they can't,
No, that was-
based on some trainings, they can't because they're always assumed to be at work.
correct.
That's the only thing I'm referring to is the planning part of it out, not, because you can meet to plan something out, but we're not executing underneath that same committee. Does that make sense? You can plan it out though. We're gonna start doing this, we're gonna start recruiting here, we're gonna start, it's a whole project plan.
Let me ask Board Member Walker and Ms. Reiner, because I feel like you guys have the most knowledge, because you go to the most trainings on this one. The staff, like what Ms. Garrett is asking, that's not what our staff can do.
correct. As a board, we have to do what we're doing now with regards to having a levy discussion. Is like, we can initiate a conversation here and then prepare things, but our team has to do what Dr. Lawrence and them have did so far, from my understanding. That's right.
We've done that work so far. Ms. Reiner's been there, you've been there, several board members have been there. We have at least 8 different scenarios. Scenarios where a levy passes, scenarios where a levy doesn't pass, scenarios where we carry debt into the next year, scenarios where we don't carry the debt and we have a reduction in force, scenarios where we consolidate schools and have a reduction in force. So all these different scenarios we've worked out.
Appreciate you. We were asking a different question. What you got, Ms. Ryan?
So the work that would have to be done, and I think the question was posed, who's going to do the work? It doesn't happen on the dais, and it doesn't happen on school district time or on school district grounds. But I would, there should be a representative from the board who is organizing. There basically needs to be like an unofficial committee. It's not a board committee, but somebody on the board needs to be heading up this work and having the conversations and bringing the people together outside district locations and outside district hours. Finding and putting together the levy committee through all the different groups across the area, and making a plan. Very often there is a consulting team, a consulting firm that is brought in to guide us through the process, and to help with fundraising. Again, not from the dais, not official district work, but at this point, maybe there should be a board member who is heading up that process and guiding that process.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Jocelyn.
So it'll be between, I mean, Mr. Lacy said last week, Mr. Smith is the most politically, that one, but you already said you would do that, right? He's working on
I mean,
it. Because you gotta
I've
trust.
done that
I'm
work for
saying
two
we got,
different
so,
levies like
I'm
that.
just saying it's already 2 people now. And I think Mr. Walker said he wanna do it, so that's 3, which the rest of us, you know, more than that. Now y'all are 4, so.
And-
Whoa. 4 is, that's too many.
Well, and I think there's 2 different things, pardon me for interrupting. There's the actual people that are guiding the ship on this. And then there is the acknowledgement that as board members, we are committed to the process and we will help outside district, official district hours and district work. I am committed to helping as I can, whatever this committee is, and doing that work. And I think probably every single board member is on the same page in regards to that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. I just wanna make sure y'all got it, like, I don't wanna come to August.
Yes.
We doing
So-
this all over again.
Now, to clarify, if it is not May, then after the primary election day is when legally, like, we can have, hey, by August, we already are filed and things like that for it. So the background work or whatever we're gonna do can lead up to that primary election day, and then, like, you can immediately file the day after for the general election. Just clarifying.
I'm saying,
Like, as far as when the process starts of
yeah,
continuing.
they should, the team should move on here, because there was no one that was against us unless, and you correct and say that if you want to, was against the district putting levies out, because it's not just a levy, there are 2 levies, guys, that are out there for that one. No one is against that, am I correct on that one?
Not against the levy.
Correct. The timing is the issue here, so if, again, I don't believe that there are 5 individuals who are going to move forward with this one based on what I'm hearing here, but that means you still would need to start working on the next stuff to have this stuff prepared for the August deadline, is that piece of it. Is that correct? Is anybody
Yeah.
contradicting
Yeah,
that?
so that's
So we're giving
pretty
them-
much what you need, like, but.
But we're
Mr.
giving them the
Walker-
direction.
To Mr. Walker's point,
Okay.
that is a whole different timeline and track. Like, the legal track of getting that done, like, you can do the work for a levy before it becomes the
A levy.
space of when it has to
Right.
go and file. That's why a lot of the times, like, I've worked on levies where there's actual literature out before there's even a levy number, because that's how much time was going into before the levy comes out. The levy number and the things you get, which are gonna be on the ballot, comes with the whole filing. That's the other side. So yes, that, like, the work of doing this can start this afternoon.
Yeah, so
That's right.
That piece is
As
where
it should.
my concern has always been, is
Yes.
how do you do that? Because I don't want us to go into this space of having people running around being fearful and then say we do not get the result we want, and now people take that on themselves and now they feel like they didn't do the work needed to save their own jobs. That is disastrous to do to people.
Well, I just wanted to clarify because last week, Dr. Lawrence made a statement somewhere in there that we've never as a board directed them to put this on, him or Madam Treasurer to do this. So we are directing them as a body to contradict if you are to work on this in the event that this doesn't pass today for the November. Anybody in disagreement there? So they have actual direction of what to do. All right, the silence means everybody was on board with that piece of it. And now, back to you.
So I just have one question, so I can be clear. If we do not vote on this being put on in May, what is your plan?
Look at you.
Dr. Lawrence.
Your plan.
I mean, I will bring this back again and change the date.
So, I mean, but
And
will
what
there
you
be
asked-
jobs that will have to be cut, that will do, I know that you're already making cuts in different areas.
I'm gonna repeat it again, but, Board Member Reiner has been to a meeting, because I've opened them up to board members. Board Member Goodwine has been to one, there's 3 members on the committee. I talked to other members ad hoc. They're aware that we have at least now 8 different versions of what if. And I would also defer to Madam Treasurer. She said, hey, we can carry some of this, but there's a number where we can't carry this over budget into next year. It's just not doable.
Okay, thank you. If nothing else,
So,
go ahead.
but we do not have to do some of these things because even if we would have put up a levy in May and it would have passed, we wouldn't get the money till later. So no matter what, things could have a space to be. So it would be disingenuous to say that because we do not put something up in May, then now there's this number that we can't carry over if they were saying that we could have carried it over if we would have known that we're gonna magically get this levy money down the road. Like that's not like, so there are things that we need to do as a district to be fiscally responsible, but they're not tied, they cannot be tied to a May or a November decision because the money wouldn't come this year anyway.
That's right.
And so whatever is going on, I want our people to know that it is not due to us not putting something on in May because the money would not have been there. And I think that's where we really need to come together as a group and have real discussions about what does it look like to cut some of these things. And not having these spaces where, okay, this is what it would look like, but then we're not looking at the ramifications of what happens if we do those things. Like if we look at things like, we have conversations and we've seen it, okay, district closes a building, charter gets a building, or we close a building and we think that students are gonna follow somewhere else and then they don't and then they go somewhere else and then we lose that money as well. Like we have to really sit as a team, as a group, everybody here, and not just the dais folks, because we don't work here, but really get to saying, how do we fix this thing? And the only other way to do that is to also have these things laid out and let people know what we're looking at. But if we're saying we can't carry certain things over into July, August of 2026, then we wouldn't have been able to do it if we passed the levy because we wouldn't have the money yet. So it's not based upon that. It is based upon the fact of where we are and how do we shape these conversations. So I would say I would be very perturbed if we're saying, okay, if we're gonna walk out here and we're saying we're not gonna put a levy up in here. So now, yes, these people, we're gonna have to roll with these cuts because that's disingenuous. Because the money was not going to be here if we passed the levy in May.
We have put forward several proposals, such as K-8, to attempt to hold on to our middle schoolers. We've had projections from a flat projection to as many as 300, a student increase. We have modeled this in lots of different permutations. And so our job, Mr. Smith, is I will provide you with some recommendations in April or May for next year, and then the board will make a decision. And I'll provide them based on my work with the Treasurer's Office, which we've been doing, and operations. And so we've been dealing with this for at least 6 weeks now, multiple meetings, and like I said, multiple permutations. So we'll be prepared to, based on levy or not, we'll be prepared to provide a recommendation on what we do next year in staffing and what we do in terms of this district, and what it looks like. That's our job.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else? Nope.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I thought we were voting on it today.
Why? If Mr.
There's a motion and a second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn, but if you want to vote on it, then Mr. Lacy would need to withdraw the motion to adjourn, and then we can.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Should we, I mean, are we okay with voting to see if we're gonna do this in May?
It doesn't matter.
No, you're not.
That's what Superintendent, Madam Treasurer, you want us to vote on this? That's the question.
Do you wanna
What do you
see?
think?
Y'all need to hold it for a second, look, slide back and go talk.
We just need to have
Matter of fact, you there,
second.
Assistant Treasurer, y'all go talk. You hear from business managers, before y'all talk, let us know if y'all want to vote. With haste, please.
Yes, please.
While we're waiting, if I may, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I would like, no matter how the vote goes today, and if we have a vote on one of these proposals, I would like to discuss about how we will involve the community in this decision. I think it's really important to make sure not only that we get a pulse on how the community is feeling before we do anything officially, but I would like to also make sure that their voices are heard in the campaign. A lot of people in Dayton believe in Dayton Public Schools. It's been my personal mission for the last 8 years on the board to build trust in Dayton Public Schools. And I would like to offer people, there are a lot of people who are feeling really politically engaged right now. I would love to extend a hand to community members to put their boots on the ground and join us in a levy campaign if we go for one either now or November or in the future. This is a great opportunity to meet your neighbors and to advocate and fight for something we all believe in. And I'm just expressing my desire for strong community involvement and a commitment from the board unofficially, on my part, to make sure that the community is informed and involved in whatever this campaign will be.
Agreed, thank you.
So,
Ms. Reiner?
Columbus did do the same thing, and what they created was a operational efficiency and cost containment task force that involved community members and district members that then looked at this and then took this plan out to the community with what cuts were gonna happen, buildings may be closed, things like that. And then they still put a levy out and still did everything that they just told the community. So if we involve the community, I want it to be something like that, that is the members of that.
I just want y'all to do work. That's all I'm asking for. Someone, like, not, because we talk a lot. We talk a ton. And we have all these conversations about community and this group, that group, that one. I'm happy that we're walking away with, because you were part of the group. It's 1, 2, 3. Make sure the people at home, if there's a close-up I can get on my mic, on my camera. Ryan, can you get my close-up so they can see me?
But
Hold on, I gotta finish my close-up. I want them to, this 30 seconds of, hey, I believe and declare. It's on me, let me
No,
live.
it's not, because the last video was all
Mr. Walker, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Lacy are the charge on here, and the rest of us,
the treasurer.
he the treasurer, so he already on the group. The rest of us are backup dancers on this, but we're gonna help how they see fit. Because we're gonna get to this next conversation, and we're not gonna have this same conversation that we've had twice now, over again. And if there is nothing to show, it's because Mr. Walker, Mr. Lacy, and Mr. Smith didn't do their part. And now, man, like, come on, so they,
And I will say, like, I think my rationale for saying, yes, I'm gonna do this is because a lot of times it gets tiring hearing community members say things, but then they don't wanna come to the table. So now we're giving you that open seat to bring your own chair or take one of our chairs and actually come and actually do the work in which you say DPS needs to be better at.
I'm never gonna bet against the district, I'm gonna tell you that.
Yeah.
If this is put up today, I'm a supporter. If it's put up in Denver, I'm a supporter.
Yeah. People pay me for this kind of work, so consider yourself lucky, President, baby.
I will say, one thing
Just
about
saying.
Joe Lacy gonna
You're
bring
on the
numbers.
dais, you're on the dais right now, you're getting paid.
So we get-
No.
Get 'em
I
back.
have to-
I mean,
I have to-
You're getting paid right now.
we can
Just have to
adjourn
show
this
you.
one and start a new one, I can get another one.
One of our levy chairs got a school named after him, didn't he?
Who's that? Who's school?
Conants.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
David
yeah,
Evans,
man.
yeah, yeah.
That's
He's
not
still
gonna
around
happen.
here.
That's not gonna happen.
He
not gonna
also,
happen.
he also made
You said?
good donations.
But I will say that is, I do think that there's a lot that we can do. And the things that I've seen working on multiple levies is that the times that I've seen people make mistakes comes from not having enough time to plan.
All
So I
right,
think right now we're in a good space
they are back.
to do that.
Dr. Goodwine, thank you for the opportunity to huddle up. The treasurer said something really important while we were huddling up. Treasurer Abraham, she said, I've been happy, Dr. Lawrence, with all the work we've done to work on different budget scenarios, and I'm happy with where we are. So we should work together to continue to educate the board about all those different versions we have, and at some point, educate the public. And so we would love to do this in November.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Goodwin, motion,
Goodwin motion, yes.
Yes.
and second,
Dr. Bailey.
Dr. President Bailey,
Yes.
Dr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. Lacy,
Yes?
Mr. Smith,
We.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Garrison,
Yes.
7 yeses.